again to our Wisdom Wednesday webinar. We have today a special guest. His name is Paul Cassell. Paul, we are so excited to have you today. Paul has 25 years of experience and even more on IT, and he's the CTO of Intech. So thank you, Paul, for staying here. We have also our COO, Siam Mohi from CTA Staffing, and we have Gavi, our business development leader. Paul, you are the star of the show. How are you today?
I am doing wonderful from sunny Tampa, so thank you for asking.
Awesome, wonderful. So we're very excited to have you. We have a lot of questions based on your expertise, so let's just get started with them. Sounds good?
Sounds like a plan.
Awesome. So Paul, we want to know what's one tech trend you have seen rise and fall during your 25 years in IT?
Wow, you're aging me. Look, one of the really most interesting ones was physical storage versus cloud storage. I mean, when back in the day, it was tape backups. I remember doing tape rotations, so we could utilize the tape space. And now it's a thing of the past. I mean, cloud storage is so cheap now that you don't even give it a second thought. I mean, it wasn't too long ago that we were talking about flash drives and things like that. So I would say that is a meteoric rise and fall due to cloud.
I think you're 100% right. And I would say more on the consumer side, I can literally pick up any computer anywhere in the world and pick up where I left off with what you just said with cloud storage. I mean, it's incredible. Like the other day, don't make fun of me, but I had a senior moment where I literally just left my bag at home. And I get to the office and like, oh, here's this computer from like 2010. You can try to log in with this. Literally just logged into my Google account. Boom, there everything was. I got right back to work like I had not even skipped the beat. I may have had to update the computer a couple of times, but all right. So I got to ask you. So you talked about cloud storage versus regular storage.
Hmm.
What's next? What do you think the evolution of that, or what's like the next big thing that's going to happen that we all got to buckle up and get ready for?
Yeah, I'm not sure it's going to be in the storage arena. I believe it's going to. There's a couple of things. One is going to be how easy it's going to be able to. You're going to be able to handle unstructured data. There are tools out there now, and there are databases out there that do that. And this is from the not from the average Joe perspective, but from a business perspective. So I look at all of the things that have been happening with data mining and such. So, but you need specific expertise and platforms. I just think it's going to take it to the next level of being easier to work through unstructured data. I personally think that's going to be a huge thing, and not just working through it, pivoting and going back and forth very easily, and not having to pick a specific platform to work on. I think they'll be interchangeable.
I think you're right because when you look at some of the largest companies in the world, the Apples, the Googles, the Teslas, they're not really tech companies, they're data companies. They do tech, but really they're in the business of collecting your data and processing that data. And if you see three companies like that, where their number one prerogative is just data collection, you have to think that they have some sort of agenda to where they can process that data at a level that we can't even fathom. So I can't disagree with you, man.
Every company is a data company.
That's right.
Even if you don't know it, you are a data company. The mom and pop stores are data companies. It's just how you utilize your data, whether it's getting out there to get more customers, how you better set up your products for the consumers. It doesn't matter. It is turned into a data industry, and it's an arms race.
All right. So then So all right, so Paul, talk to me. I'm a lifelong sales guy. We run a sales team here. We do a lot of fun stuff. With that being said about data,
Mhm.
what would you tell a company that doesn't realize they're a data company? What can they be doing differently to maximize the data they have now to help grow their revenues?
Yeah, that's a great question. And having been on both sides, having my own consulting firm for 8+ years and having run IT organizations, um, data efficiency is really, really hard because a lot of companies have plenty of data. Just they just don't know what to do with it. And it's not just that they have plenty of data. There's so many inputs into from data into those companies. So the biggest thing is to make sure that you know all your ingress and egress points for the data. You understand how it's coming into your firm and what you're doing with it today. But then again, what's your end goal? I kept going to different companies and it was, we need to do this, we need to do that. We have we don't have these data points. But really, what they did is they had data points, they just didn't know how to access them, or they didn't
Mm,
have the right technology to make it easier for the end users in the company to pick up those queries. You had to be a data scientist to do that. So the DBAs were working on all different things, and then they would make these queries, and then they make reports. But then the end users kept putting in more requests, and it's almost like 50 people working on a presentation. It's ridiculous. You
mm.
really shouldn't have to have people doing that. So I really think that the companies have to focus on their roadmaps and what they're looking to get out of it before they can take the leap, because too many firms jump to the end of the path before they really realize where they're going. And then you end up in loops. You keep saying, well, I need this, because your plans are so flexible. It ends up being a hodgepodge. And I can't tell you how many places I've been to where that is a constant issue.
All right.
Awesome. Paul, we have another question for you, and is if you could only pick one area in tech to focus on the next decade, like AI, cloud, or security, what would it be and why?
Boy, that's not fair. Um,
Just one, please.
well, I'm going to give you a little bit of a skewed answer there. So to enable to do that, you have to align all your tools and processes with the business goals. Okay, regardless of what tool you're going to focus on or what have you. So I believe that there's going to be a huge focus, and there is now, on AI. But I focus on AI as a support tool. But they're all interwoven, right? To focus on AI, you have to focus on cloud, bare metal offerings, and security, because you can't isolate AI and not think about we'll call it the ecosystem that supports it. So, yeah, I'm an AI fan, but it's the tools, processes, and the company corporate goals, because it's like tech for tech is worthless. It's all comes down to the business goals, and then how do you back into that, and then what focuses are you going to align yourself with? So, yeah, long story short, AI, but it's so interwoven. You can't just not take the others along for the ride with you.
So when you said this question is not fair, it reminds me of one of my old mentors who said, life's not fair. Fair is where you take your kids. And I don't know why, but that always stuck out to me. It always made me laugh every time. I've kind of grown to say that's not fair. I can't even say it without him having hearing that in the back of my head. All right. So when you bring up AI, and I'm going to tell you right now, you are definitely not the first or last person to say AI is going to be a concentration point. But bringing it back to the last question of being data companies,
Hmm.
How can we start using, and I know it's already happening now, but how can we start implementing AI into data? And how do you see some sort of synergy working between the two of those?
Yeah, and it's already being worked into the data from, very, very complicated queries. And I'll take a little bit of a step back because there is different areas of AI, and everybody thinks, I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of folks think, oh, well, we have AI, and okay, you have AI, but all you're really doing is writing job recs and doing, certain RFQs like we do and such. But from a data perspective, you really it's a whole mode of what do we do now? How do we we'll say exercise our limits and get into this support testing framework. Because if you think that AI is just going to give you answers, it, it will, but they'll be the wrong ones. And for you, you have to bring in people into your organization and you have to train these models. And it starts out with testing and then retesting and then layering these things on to get those answers from your data that you you're struggling. It really should be getting these answers that the human can't figure out. There's too many permutations. And right now, I don't think we've even stretched the limits of that. But circling back from a data perspective, you got to start slow. And it can't just be I'm looking for, the holy grail. It is let's start with things that we know, train it, build upon it, test it, and that's actually how you bring up your engineers in these organizations, where you start testing these methodologies and getting going, especially in data, because it's going to be a different engineer in the future. It's the haves and the have-nots, and if you
Mhm.
don't train these folks how to how to work with AI, and I keep saying tool, because I view it as a tool. I don't view it as a overall utopian solution. I just don't. I've said this 1,000 times to other folks. I don't trust anything. I think you have to prove and know how to do some of these things manually and build upon it before you can start putting your trust in AI, especially when it comes to your data that you're going to be making monetary decisions on.
I cannot argue with you. And here, you want me to show you like greatest example of that is? Do you know what this is?
Yeah, I got one of those too.
Let me tell you right now. We used to know how to do math and multiplication and division. Now you plug it into here. I remember when I first got my first cell phone, I had to memorize everybody's phone numbers because there was no application to hold a phone book. And I mean, we're talking about that as the most minimal things you can think of. But this is like the evolution. When you said start small, if I told you today your phone doesn't have a phone book and you have to memorize everybody's phone number, you're gonna think I'm crazy. That's so 50 years ago. But think about those small steps that we had to make to where we are today, and think about where we're going to be 20 years from now. I was listening to a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about the very first iPhone, which none of us could even use today because it's so old, had more technology in it than the first spaceship that landed on the moon. Like that's crazy to me, crazy. So how I look at how much we were able to do without it, and look at what we're able to do with it. The evolution is what's next. What scares me is I've seen the movie The Terminator, like the rest of us have, as well as what's the other one? The one with Keanu Reeves, The Matrix.
Matrix.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not that far. I mean, what button do we have to
Well,
press to go the wrong way to end up like that? You never know.
and getting back to the data and whether it's the takeover of the AI, I view it as support, and it's an evolution, right? People always talk about AI is going to remove all these jobs and there'll be no humans. Well, no, there's tasks that will get removed, But as I tell my team and folks that I've talked to in the past and today, is that we're going to be eliminating the low hanging fruit and rising the people up to the next level of analytic capabilities. So those things, those rote behavior things, and some of the lower things, yeah, get rid of those. And then the folks who step up, they can actually start working on training these models and utilizing AI as a tool for the more difficult things. So I view a world where we work together and some things go away, but new things come about. I don't view it as one goes up and one goes down. I kind of see it as a path up.
Wonderful. We have another question for you, and is related to your media. You are a thought leader, actually quoted in the media. Do you have any memorable stories or experiences that you want to share in this journey?
Yeah, I'd have to say one of my most memorable and shocking kind of fun was, in 2014, I launched PCIT Consulting after I had left the NYSE, and I had done a lot of research and kind of set myself up to hit the ground running. I had never had my own business before. It was very, I'd say, scary. Being a corporate guy for most of my career before that, and so kind of get everything going and ducks in a row and making sure I had the website going and the first clients before I even opened the door. And I had a publicist at the time, and she had said, "Hey, I need you in New York on this date, and I'm going to meet you down here in Times Square." And I said, "Oh, great, looking forward to it." So I I go down to Times Square, and I'm just standing around, and I get a phone call, and it's my publicist, and she said, "Well, how you doing? Are you in touch?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely." She said, "Okay, we have a countdown." And I said, "Well, to what?" She says, "Just hang on the phone." And she does this 10, 9, 8 thing. And all of a sudden she says, "Look up." And this big giant PCIT consulting goes up in Times Square with my name and former NYSE exec at it. Just it was kind of a head trip, but it was really fun. There's a million people like, who the heck is this guy? But I'm sitting there jumping around and saying, wow,
Yeah.
this is pretty neat. So that was probably my most memorable journey from a story perspective.
That's wonderful. Paul, we have one question also, and is related to your experience as well. What's one thing companies often overlook when aligning IT with business goals, and how would you fix it?
Yeah, and this is like a broken record. I mean, it doesn't matter what vertical you're in. It really doesn't. And I found this out from consulting, and I thought, well, it was isolated from the companies that I work with. It's just everywhere you go. So most companies that I've been involved with, whether it's directly or indirectly, they fail to understand the concept of an intake process for work projects, and they struggle to prioritize. And I always say, if everything is a priority, nothing's a priority. So it's imperative to, at a minimum, to have some sort of lightweight, SDLC tied with this. It's an overall lack of understanding of how these projects link to the top goals of the organization. There's too many times I've been in an organization where it, it only a certain level of folks in the organization are in the know. They're in that circle of trust, right? And it's like, well, we're all supposed to row in the same direction. Let's not get into the bad grapevine where someone tells me this, it gets a little watered down and it moves it way down the chain. And it's disenchanting when you work in a firm like that because you don't understand what I'm doing on a daily basis. How is that contributing to the company's top goals? And I can't, when you fix that, and I have fixed those things, it's a it's like a boost, an energy boost to the organization from, just being excited that we're all in the know, we understand. And if we pivot, that also comes down to everybody rank and file in the organization. And I don't really understand why it's so difficult, but it seems to be, whether it's in healthcare, whether it's in fintech, it doesn't matter. It always is, well, I have 20 top one priorities. Well, yeah, but you have one group. Now, if you have a group for all of that and you have the unlimited budget, have at it. You don't really have to worry about priorities. But 99.9% of us really do have budgets and do have to figure these things out. And it's that really, I'll say it's a consternation. It's a push and a pull. If you have a larger company and you have, let's say, 20 different divisions, well, division leader A versus division leader B, they don't really care about each other. I mean, we have the same goals as a firm, kind of, but they're not being bonused out the same way. They're like, my performance is my performance, my project is my project, and I need you guys to get this done. And then the other folks are like, well, my project is my project. So it comes from the top that you have to set up those serious intake processes and have the give and take, because we all don't have unlimited budgets. And that's really, I got to tell you, everywhere I go, it's it's the bane of my existence with folks who just cannot have a solid intake process. And there's so many harder things out there, but this is one that hits almost every organization that I've seen.
Okay. So, Paul, I'm going to talk to you from the sales guy perspective on where I think the biggest flaw in tech is.
All
Tech,
right.
tech needs a salesperson to represent their interests at the company. And let me explain. You guys are speaking a language the layman does not understand. And when we're like, oh God, the tech guy, okay, we got to do this. Okay, oh, we got to bulk up security. Okay, they don't understand how that affects their business unit, the company as a whole. A lot of times they have a difficulty understanding that. And the background that I came from was very heavy sales environment. We sold tech, but we sold hardware and software.
Okay.
And our old CEO, he understood business. Like, he really got it. Ruthless, but understood business. And he had a very famous line that he goes, I don't care what your title is at this company. You either do one of two jobs. You're in sales or you're in sales support.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes, before you ask me for anything at this company, ask yourself, are you selling something or are you helping somebody sell something? And I at first I was like, what is this guy talking about? How does the janitor have anything to do with this? But when you think about it, you kind of get what the janitor does. If we're bringing clients in and the place is a mess, guess what? They're probably going to buy from us. So they're in sales support. The CFO, right, if they don't put together the right comp plan to incentivize the salespeople, well, then they're going to lose salespeople. And I'm like, okay, I'm starting to connect the dots here. Tech was always interesting because tech always ended up looking like an expense. And it was always something everybody was like, oh, come on, come back later. But I always felt like if tech had the right representative at the company, I think that's why MSPs do so well. If tech has a right representation where they show, let me show you, so understanding what the CEO's vision of the company is, and how do we use technology to reach your vision, which is normally growth, revenue growth, and profit growth. Those are the three, every CEO, that's what they all care about. How can we use technology to do that? I feel like if we had more people in tech learn that, it would blow them away.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I mean, for years, I started my career on the buy side, on the trading side, and I understand the business side. So I've always had an approach that, one, I call it walking the ladder. I have to be able to translate to every different person in the firm, layman's terms, tech terms, what have you. But what has to be done, and we've done this in many organizations, whether it's the people we bring in, having some sort of a PM liaison that was a former salesperson, understand from the business pipeline. We've
Mhm.
always done those type of things to to align with the business. I always say we don't have a job without selling something. I mean, we don't exist without business. So tech for tech is a waste. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. There's different ways to do that, and some companies haven't quite figured that out yet.
Let me tell you, it's one of those things. And with what we do, we staff a ton of tech talent. And one of the biggest obstacles we always run into is, we don't have the budget for another person. So I'm like, okay, so no, you'll never have the budget for another person. I promise you, because what you have to do is you have to sell the idea to the CFO that we need more money.
Right.
So one of the conversations we have with hiring managers, whether it be the CTO, the CIO, the CTO, the CISO, whoever it may be, is we talk to them and we develop a compelling business reason. We give them the ROI, like why, if this doesn't happen, could jeopardize the company. By doing this, we can anticipate this growth, right? So it's one of those things that we have realized, if I put the CIO or CTO in charge of hiring when there's no budget, they'll never get that position passed. So what we
Right.
work with them is we almost train them, we tutor them, we work with them developing that plan to go sell. So we're almost selling on their behalf to their own company. Like, hey, if we don't bring this cybersecurity expert in, we're going to get hacked. This guy costs us $150,000 a year. That hack's going to cost us like $150 million that we don't have. And we're going to lose our insurance and we're going to lose our company, our credibility. Blah, 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 blah. You show them the steps and they're like, yeah, go spend $150,000 a year. You break it down, it's like $12,000, $13,000 a month. I'm like, guys, you don't even notice that at some of these companies. So it's one of those things.
Everything has to be an ROI. The problem is getting that process into your everyday SDLC. And SDLC is not a technology process. It's a company process. It's baked in. You bake in security. You bake in business. There's yes, no paths. All of that. And part of that is that ROI. But
Mhm.
coming up with a realistic ROI is a different story. So
Yeah. So, Paul, I think we're on to something, and we gotta have to have a side chat about a little side business with what we do. Is we're gonna be coaches, or we can be the salespeople for these CIOs, CTOs to go sell to their own CEOs. A little side hustle we can put together to help these guys out finally get the budgets they need.
I tell you, I've been a one-man gang doing that for a number of years. Love to partner up with people to do those things. So
Let's
absolutely.
monetize it. I love this idea.
Business idea now, guys. Paul, we have a lot of questions actually coming from Gabby. So we're just going to wrap it up very fast. But before I pass the questions, I want to give you this opportunity to let me know if there's any project you're working on at Intech or something that you want to share, something super quick before we move on.
Yeah, just quickly, I would say one of the most, and it's something we had finished, but one of the most challenging projects I've ever been involved with in my entire career was coming into the company that I'm at and realizing that the entire infrastructure was was dated, and we had a research platform that was long in the tooth. So designing a new cloud-based research platform that was going to drive our AUM, assets under management, is no small task. And we tied together best of breed cloud providers, internal development to develop and launch a state-of-the-art, one-of-a-kind cloud-based research platform that is now driving our AUM, and frankly, from last year at this time to this year, we've doubled our AUM. So
Wonderful. Yeah.
pretty, and we're talking billions, not millions. So it's pretty cool, and something that I'm not sure that I'll get an opportunity to do something like that again.
My turn. Okay, so we have many questions. Sadly, not enough time. But okay, Paul, and also Sia. Do you have a book that changed your life as a leader that you would recommend?
This is going to be a little off color, but I've got I've got 3 books that really did it for me, and don't laugh, but there's one book called The No Asshole Rule, and it's by Robert Sutton. It is a must read because every organization has them. It's so amazing that you have to look at that. And there's one, Leaders Eat Last
Yeah.
by Simon Sinek, and then First Break All the Rules by Marcus Buckingham.
Mhm.
Those to me, and again, I've read a lot of leadership books, great books, but I'm kind of a common sense guy, and these books spoke to me.
Cannot argue that. I like all 3 of those. Um, I've got 3, and they're sitting on my shelf here that I love them. Strengths Finder, for those of you who can't read long books, that's like the perfect book. It's like maybe 50 pages long, and it really helps you put into perspective your tasks. It says find out what you're great at, do it. Find out what you're not great at, and delegate it. I loved that. I absolutely love, because I was always trying to get better at the things I wasn't good at. No. Spend your time doing the things you're great at. You make a lot more money. I was like, I love that.
Absolutely.
There was another one written by the guy who started Keller Williams. It's called The One Thing. And it was all about not multitasking. Focus on less things to do, and you can get more done. And I don't know if you guys ever watched the show Parks and Rec.
Oh, yeah.
No.
There's a really famous little quote from there that I thought was funny at the time until I realized what he was talking about. He goes, never half-ass anything, whole-ass one thing. And I was like, wait a second. I kind of get what you're saying here. So I love that. And it kind of goes back to that book. I have a theory. I don't like to do anything until I make the decision to do something, and then I'm all in. So I really like that. And then the last one, probably one of my favorite authors / just guys, it's Your Next 5 Moves by Patrick Bet-David. This guy just understands business. He just gets it.
I got that on my shelf.
He just understands business. And I listen to his podcast, especially when it's business oriented, and you can just the way your brain thinks will change, and you stop looking at yourself as you start looking at yourself as the business. He talks about entrepreneurship, which I love, and I talk to my guys about that all the time. And it changes the way you think. So thank you, Gabby. Good question.
Amazing. I will add them to my list. What will you say is the role of cybersecurity, and how can companies balance innovation with security?
Yeah, this is a loaded one, especially since people go in all different directions here. But InfoSec's group needs to be a proactive, dedicated, yet integrated group that works within the risk tolerance. And I say risk tolerance of the organization that you work through. It's very, very important that you mimic the risk tolerance of your organization. You want to maintain those solid practices, but they cannot become the no group when it comes to innovation. They can't be, no, can't do that. I'm not looking for the security teams to be like that. But on the same breath, security teams need to be woven into the DNA of the corporate processes. It can't be an after effect where, hey, we finished our platform, we're building this, and let's bring in security. Well, that doesn't work. Don't back a security team into a corner by leaving them out of the development and the design discussions. This is a total recipe for compromise and disappointment. I've seen it time and time again. So it really is about balancing, getting that group woven into the company for the goals, and then you can have a successful cyber team, and that's that. And I'm a big proponent of both external, internal, whether it's put together with two teams, external or internal. But it's very expensive to have the right team, especially the type of business you're in. I mean, like a Visa business is not going to have an external cyber team. They're going to have a multi-million-dollar team. In tech, yeah, we're going to have a hybrid.
Thanks, Paul. Sadly, this one is our last question for both of you. In your opinion, what's the role of empathy in business today, and how do you teach it to your team?
I couldn't hear that.
Okay, again. In your opinion, what's the role of empathy in business today, and how do you teach it to your team?
How do I teach business to my team?
No, the role of
Empathy.
empathy.
Empathy in the business.
Empathy. Empathy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Great, great question, and I apologize for not being able to understand.
don't worry.
Look, it's first of all, any good leader has to have empathy, and and I would say it's not. This isn't book stuff. This is real life experiences where you really have to understand the needs of all the folks on the teams and within the organization. Not one thing motivates everybody. So it's as a leader, it's really important to get down and understand what makes people tick, right? And when you start conveying that, you people start understanding, well, I've extended the olive branch. This is how you do it. Let's as a team just have a little thought process of what everyone's going through and their struggles. And I'm not talking about, just laying down in the sobby stuff. I'm literally talking about making a better business. And you have to have empathy for that because every all have different life stories and situations that happen every day. And the more you are in tune with employees and all the folks in the organization, you will get it back in spades.
You guys know my thoughts on empathy. I think empathy is the one of the single greatest characteristics a successful person has, because empathy is what is going to allow you to communicate your idea to get it to the finish line. Like I've always said it, like if you cannot make it, it's almost like having nuance to it. If I can't show you why my idea benefits you and what you really want, you're never gonna get it done. Like just from a sales background, if you give somebody a quota, they're like, I don't really care that you gave me a quota. Why does this quota even matter? Well, if I tell you, but so what's your goal? Why do you work here? Oh man, I want to buy a house. Okay, great. Now let's work backward, right? Their goal is to buy a house. How can I connect working hard for me to them buying a house?
Sure.
Connecting that dot is true empathy. That's how you're able to do it. You have to find out what are your people's goals. Now, if you're dealing with a CEO, a lot of times that's simple. His goal is to her goal is to what? Grow the company, right? Maybe they have an exit plan in 5 years. They want to sell the company for $100 million. Okay, great. So what do we have to do to get to $100 million? And like, how does my vision interlock with that? So empathy is huge. And for those of you guys who don't understand empathy, research it, practice it, read about it. It will make your life so much better, and it'll make what you do at work so much easier.
Yeah, and too many times people try to break up empathy with personal life business. And it's not. I mean, there's different levels, but it's really not. We spend more time at work than with our loved ones. So you really do have to worry, figure out how to marry those things together from a work perspective. And it's for some folks, it does take a little bit of time and coaching, but it's real world experiences that get you over the hump.
I agree. And you want to get real granular with that. I had a rep who his wife had very expensive tastes. She liked these purses that were, in my opinion, a waste of money. They've yet to convince me otherwise. But the $5,000 purse, I was like, Jesus Christ, that's a waste of money. But I thought to myself, okay, so how do we get him that purse? So we put a goal out there for him, like, hey, if you get this, we'll buy the purse for you for her. I've never seen anybody work that hard before. He goes, oh, if I get this for the wife, she will literally leave me alone. She will be happy. My life will be better. It's really it's connecting with them on that personal level. That empathy will help you do that. So,
Yeah,
Paul,
and as I mentioned, everybody's different, right? Everybody's different, and it's our job to figure out the trigger.
agreed.
Exactly. And guys, thank you so much for your time today. I think that's the end of our webinar. Thank you so much, Paul, for your time today. Thank you, everybody who joined us for all our different platforms. We are on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Don't forget to follow us at CTI Staffing. And we have more webinars coming soon as well. Thank you, Sia. Thank you, Gabby. And Paul, I will be in touch. I just shared your information to all our live streaming people so they can connect with you in case they want to know something about you. And then thank you so much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you,
Wonderful. This
ladies.
was a great time. Thank you.
Pleasure,
Take
Thank
Paul.
you,
care.
Have a good
Paul.
one.
All
Bye,
right. Bye
guys.
bye.